Good afternoon, Miss Portia, and good afternoon, classmates. So this is Jaya Anipi Capisnon, and I am the first reporter from Group 5. So my topic is all about the strategies in content and language integrated learning, or also known as the CLIL. So CLIL is a powerful educational approach merging language learning with subject content. So teachers integrate language learning with specific subjects like history, mathematics, and science. It enhancing both linguistic and academic skills. So in this CLIL, or the content and language integrated learning, there are many strategies we can use. The first one, we have the language scaffolding. So the language scaffolding means helping a child learn a new skill by building on skill that they already have. So the teachers give support by talking to children in different ways. So as a student, they learns the new skills, and the teachers can reduce the amount of support they give. So the second strategies, we have the cooperative learning. So from word itself, cooperative, it simply means collaboration or working together. So in this learning approach, it involves students working together on activities or learning tasks in a group small enough to ensure that everyone participates. And the third one, we have the adapting content. When we say adapting content, it is a content strategies technique designed to support different channels and interactions between the students and the teachers. And the fourth one, we have the use of visual aid. So this use of visual aid, it simply means that visual aid supplements words with pictures, charts, graphs, or other visual information. So they are important because they help the students to understand and remember, increase the students' interest, and of course, it acts as note or reminders for the teachers. And also, it can be used as the notes for the children or your students. So the next one, we have the integrated assessment. So when we say integrated assessment, it simply talks about the assess language proficiency and content understanding through tasks, projects, or presentation focusing on both language and subject knowledge. So the next one, we have the language immersion. So it simply means provide an environment rich in the target language by encouraging communication, reading, writing, activities related to the subject matter. So the next one is the explicit language teaching. So it really introduced language learning explicitly within the subject context. So highlighting key vocabulary, grammar, or language structures relevant to the content. And the last one, we have the authentic material. So this authentic material simply means it utilizes real-life materials such as articles, interviews, or documentaries related to the subject to expose students to authentic language usage in context. So that's all for the strategies of the content and language integrated learning, or also known as the CLIL.
So right now, we will tackle all about the CLIL. So what is CLIL? In abbreviation, CLIL, it is a computer-assisted language learning. So CLIL is an interactive method of instruction that helps learners achieve their goals of learning at their own pace and ability. In this method, computer technology is used in teaching learning procedures at all stages such as presentation, practice, and feedback. So what is CLIL all about? So it refers to the use of technology to enhance the teaching and learning of languages. So what really is the goal of CLIL? So it is to provide learners with engaging and effective tools to improve their language skills, including the micro skills, which is the listening, speaking, reading, and writing. So it often incorporates interactive exercises, simulations, and multimedia elements to make the learning experience more dynamic and personalized. So next we have the benefits of CLIL. What really is the benefits of CLIL? Okay, for the first one, we have it helps in enriching English language skills. Of course, if we students or people are exposed with technology, of course we'll learn something from it. We gain something knowledge from it. So that's why the call helps in enriching English language skills for a person. The next one we have the connects a learning place to the outside world. Of course, through technology we can know what is happening the other people outside the country. What are their learnings would be what we call this. Their learnings could be transferred or we could able to see through technology. The third one we have it helps in relating academics to the practical needs of the outside world. Second, serves as a surrogate teacher. So, as a surrogate teacher, it is the technology also serve as a particular role for us, especially to us students, because they also teach us on how to be better. We learn something from it. We learn something from technology. We gain something from it. Okay. And the fifth one, we have that it aids in collaborative and cooperative learning. Of course, students are curious about something. So, through questioning how to do it, some students could what do you call this? Could cooperate or socialize to other persons so that through their curiosity they were able to ask something from it, and also they would collaborate into other students. And the sixth one we have is ideal for carrying out repeated drills. So ideal and provides impartial feedback. Of course, through watching some videos, of course, we could reflect to ourselves if that thing is correct. For example, there is one word though we have it is hard for us to know how to pronounce it. So through viewing through searching on a Google in how to pronounce it, we could able to learn how to pronounce that certain words, so that we could reflect in ourselves, or the technology also gives feedback to us through correcting what are we needed to know more about it. Okay, the next one we have it creates a realistic environment. So for example, listening activities are combined with visuals. So next is ideal for integrating skills such as reading, writing, speaking, and listening. So of course, no, as what I've said, that through watching or using technology, we could incorporate or we could enhance our micro skills through following something that is good for us, so that can enhance our brain or could give us knowledge, not just merely on what do we call this, not just merely on something that makes us enjoyment, but of course something that could give us learnings. And the sixth one, it provides a choice of an appropriate learning strategy and acts as a ready reckoner for all queries in the field of language learning teaching. So of course, as we teach as a pre-service teacher, if we teach on a school, we should be a ready reckoner. So what is ready reckoner? It is able to facilitate something. For example, if we will teach as a As a GNC, we people or students should know how to use technology so that as we teach on our students, we would able how to know how to, for example, how to do a PPTs, how to set up a what do you call this? How to set up a how to set up a videos in a TV, or how we set up a projector. So we as a pre-service teacher, we should know how to use the A technology. So next is, what is the use of CLIL in classroom or learning teaching? So with the reduction in the cost of computers, most educational institutions can afford to have computer systems. A computer lab is nowadays seen as an essential requirement in any educational institution because of the increased awareness among the students, teachers, and management. So, the use of CLIL in classroom or learning of teacher, it enhances language teaching by providing diverse and dynamic resources, fostering interactive learning experiences, and adapting to the individual needs of students, ultimately contributing to more effective language acquisition. That's all.
So I am Lauren Jane Romina and will be tackling the instructional materials selection, design, and development. So selection of instructional materials, there are some principles that we must hold in choosing teaching materials. Number one, the content of teaching materials ought to correspond to the learning objectives. Number two, teaching materials ought to fit the needs of the students. Number three, teaching materials ought really good in presenting factual. And number four, teaching materials ought really describe the background and the atmosphere lived by the students. Number five, teaching materials ought to easy and economical use. Number six, teaching materials ought to match the learning styles of the students. And lastly, number 7, the environment in which teaching materials used must be appropriate to the type of media used. The steps that can be taken to select teaching materials to suit the needs of learning involve 5 basic steps. Number 1, set goal for what we want to use the teaching materials. So as a teacher, we must set goal so our teaching materials will be effective on how we will be using it. Number 2, learn the areas of teaching materials that we need. So as a teacher, we must learn our areas so that our teaching materials that we need where we will know how to use it. Number 3, make the details of the type that we are looking for teaching materials. So as a teacher, we must make some details for what we are looking for, or how to improve our teaching materials, or find ways for our teaching materials to be effective when we'll be able to teach our students. Number 4, determine if teaching materials will be used to motivate students to what to learn. So as a teacher, we must determine our teaching materials on how to motivate our students on what they want to learn and what they must have to learn. Number 5, select the appropriate form of teaching materials. So as a teacher, we must select the most appropriate form of teaching materials for our students so that they can imply a lot of knowledge from us when we able to teach our students. So number 1, selection of print instructional materials. A, we must consider the information contained in it. Letter B, do not let us use teaching materials that contain less materials in accordance with the material that should be a matter of students in achieving competence. So here are the examples of selection of print instructional materials. Letter A, handout selection. Letter B, selection of textbooks. Letter C, module selection. And letter D, LKS selection. So number 2 selection is the selection of model or market instructional materials. Models or mock-ups have relevance to the materials that will be taught. Models or Mock-ups have a size that is not too big and it's not too heavy, so it can be moved by one person. Mathematical models adjusted for scale. And lastly, models or mock-ups can be obtained at the store and can be seen also in the learning resource such as in the museum or in the library.
I am Kane Zagarino and I'm going to continue the report of Lorraine Jane Romina. Third is selection of audio instructional materials. Consists of selection of radio instructional materials, selection of cassette, CD instructional materials, and selection of audio instructional materials according to Anderson. Fourth is selection of audio-visual instructional materials. Consisted of selection of video or film instructional materials and instructional materials selection. The last is interactive selection of instructional materials. The substance of the materials presented in the interactive program must have relevance to the competencies that must be mastered by the student. Interactive program presented can be accounted for righteousness. Presented in a diskette or CD, equipped with a written statement, an interesting presentation. B. Design of instructional materials according to Atwitt Superman, 1993. Model of teaching materials that consists of several components as follows. First, subject overview. Second, chapter or the repeated chapter for the next chapter. Third, bibliography. And fourth, glossary of less.
Okay, so now let us talk about rubrics. A rubric is typically an evaluation tool or set of guidelines used to promote the consistent application of learning expectations, learning objectives, or learning standards in the classroom, or to measure their attainment against a consistent set of criteria. In instructional settings, rubrics clearly define academic expectations for students and help to ensure consistency in the evaluation of academic work from student to student, assignment to assignment, or course to course. Rubrics are also used as scoring instruments to determine grades or the degree to which learning standards have been demonstrated or attained by the students. In courses, rubrics may be provided and explained to students before they begin an assignment to ensure that learning expectations have been clearly communicated to and understood by students, and, by extension, parents or other adults involved in supporting a student's education. So there are four types of rubrics. We have the analytic rubrics, developmental rubrics, holistic rubrics, and a checklist. Okay, so let us now talk first about the analytic rubrics. An analytic rubric resembles a grid with the criteria for a student product listed in the leftmost column and with levels of performance listed across the top row, often using numbers and or descriptive tags. The cells within the center of the rubric may be left blank or may contain descriptions of what the specified criteria look for each level of performance. When scoring with an analytic rubric, each of the criteria is scored individually. Second is the developmental rubrics. Developmental rubrics are a subset of analytic trait rubrics. The main distinction between developmental rubrics and other analytic trait rubrics is that the purpose of developmental rubrics is not to evaluate an end product or performance. Instead, developmental rubrics are designed to answer the question, to what extent are students who engage in our programs or services developing these skills, ability, value, or any other else? Generally, this type of rubric would be based on a theory of development. Third is the holistic rubrics. A holistic rubric consists of a single scale with all criteria to be included in the evaluation being considered together. Example, the clarity, organization, and mechanics. With a holistic rubric, the rater assigns a single score, usually on a 1 to 4 or 1 to 6 point scale, based on an overall judgment of the student work. The rater matches an entire piece of student work to a single description on the scale. And lastly, we have the checklist. Checklists are a distinct type of rubric where there are only two performance levels possible. Checklists tend to be longer than other types of rubrics since each aspect of performance you are looking for in students' work or performances essentially becomes its own criterion. When you are using a checklist, every decision is binary. It's either yes or no, present or absent, pass or fail, and many more. Most rubrics can be converted rather directly into a checklist.